There's been a big shift in women's cycling.
If you see 10 years ago, it was totally different than where women's cycling is standing now.
Everything is growing, the teams are getting bigger.
Over the years, technology is changing constantly.
In a sport that has been historically male-dominated, it's fun to see other women on bikes.
The whole experience of racing in the Pelotón is very different now.
What we're seeing at the moment is just a lot of really strong riders.
The first years when I started cycling, I can definitely see that there's a massive shift in terms of the professionalism of the riders and of the teams. You know, so if I just take a small example, you know, the first team that I cycled for the Lotto ladies team, you know, we didn't even have a camper, never mind a bus.
All the girls are professional. They have to go 100% for their sport, otherwise you don't make it. And 10 years ago, most of the girls were still working.
There's surely been a huge development in terms of material. It's now a standard to have a power meter. Everyone has a Garmin on their bikes. Everyone is tracking whatever they do on the bike. And I would say 15 years ago, that was different.
It's getting way better with the salary, with the promotion on television, with the social media, and yeah, it's. I feel the difference, definitely.
You always see a good race, and so I have the luck that I can work with top riders and with top material, and all the sponsors help with that, and that makes it exciting.
Right now, I think the most exciting thing in mountain biking is the women's field. You see, you know, huge competition at the front. It's always really close, really intense racing. People are going for it, and there's so many people that can win on any given day, and that makes it really competitive, really challenging, but also really exciting to watch and to be a part of.
Definitely the amount of opportunities for women, I think it is like growing at like a rapid rate. I think a lot of people ask me about like equality in mountain biking. I do really feel like as a sport it feels like we're pioneering the way.
I think a lot of it comes down to support. I think at the beginning of the sport, the women's side didn't get quite as much attention and maybe the support that it deserved. You know, for people to make it to these World Cups, you need to have a team, you need to be funded, you need to have somewhere to stay and support to be able to do this. And the fact that we've had races this year with over 100 women means that, you know, people beyond just the racers are seeing a real value in that field and investing in it and supporting it. That investment and support is being very much returned with the exciting kind of next level racing that's happening in the women's field.
Everyone really cares about the results right now. It's not that you have one team that dominates the entire scene. There are just like a couple teams that are capable of winning, and they feel pressure. And when you feel pressure, you really want to achieve something. We race harder, we race faster. The dynamic of our racing has changed.
It's just super aggressive. I feel like everything in the sport is super aggressive. You don't really know who's gonna win, you know, everyone can win. And I start to feel this mentality in the Pelotón that, hey, I can win today. I feel like everyone is thinking this.
I think on this moment there is a pretty wide level from riders, and I think that comes all together with the training technology.
I started racing when I was 8, and I'd say I probably got my first Garmin when I was about 12. I've actually only ever used a Garmin, so probably been using them for about 10-15 years. So when I joined Canyon SRAM, that I got my first power meter. I'd say I've seen big developments in the technology from Garmin.
I'm a data girl. I love analyzing data. I love having numbers. I've had a power meter since like the second year I started racing, and for me it's hugely motivational and it's fun. Like I love planning training, looking at the numbers, managing the training load, and it's an aspect where I think there's huge opportunity to make improvements and where you see those improvements.
I cannot train without a Garmin. Everything is monitored and all the power meters, and I cannot live without. When I'm not on the bike, I use, for example, my watch to monitor my sleep, but especially my heart rate, what it's doing in the night, and what kind of heart rate I have in the morning. It's really important because you can see then in the morning, okay, I slept good and my heart rate is low, so I can do another hard training. But if you feel a bit like bleh, and you can also see on your heart rate that's higher, then you know, okay, maybe I'm getting sick or I'm too tired. With that, you can also make it, you can make the best out of your trainings.
So in the off season, I tend to do a bit of running and also swimming. So to have my Garmin watch, it just helps me to keep track on my pacing, how long I'm doing the efforts for. So it's also good that I have a tracking device off the bike, and it incorporates well with my training peaks, and everything is logged in there, all the data, so it's also really good.
Looking at from when I entered women's cycling as a mechanic, if you were to take an average of the time trial position, you have majority of riders who look pretty smooth. It shows how serious the riders are taking it, but also the teams to put the time in to get those positions.
Such a controllable sort of event that the real specialists out there would for sure have their certain things that need to be laid out, and so many details that are perfected in the end to go really well.
If you're not mentally ready, you don't have to start. Don't think about anyone else, you just have to do your race.
I feel like it's such an intimate moment. You really work on yourself, basically. It's like praying, when you pray you don't want to be interrupted, you don't want to have any external people coming into your little bubble or zone. So I see it with every single rider actually, that whenever they get on a trainer, put their headphones in, they're kind of invisible, untouchable.
The life as a pro cyclist is awesome, really. I mean, I can't picture myself being anything else. Being able to go out on your bike the whole day, and that's your job, to be on the bike, and then we travel a lot. We see the whole world with our friends, and it's an amazing life.
The hardest part for me as an athlete is to learn how to accept that sort of element of, once you hit the start line, you have to let go of the control, and you've just got to go with the flow. And sometimes things turn out amazingly and you win and you're on a massive high, but other times you're on the best form, but you crash out and you don't get the result that you've been working so hard for, and that's the really tough time.
There's definitely a lot of different things that draw me to the sport. Initially, I think it was being able to explore, being able to get out in the mountains, and to see that I could get myself somewhere. Being able to climb to the top of Mount Tam and look back at where we started as a young girl, I think made me feel really powerful and free and just alive. And so for me, that part of it is still very much a part of what draws me to the sport.
Yeah, I enjoy the freedom of cycling, that you can go anywhere and that you don't need to plan it, and that your bike can take you anywhere.
It's those rides that you want to get lost, you want to explore, and when you're riding along on a fire road and you see a trail, you take that trail just because you don't know where it's going to go. If I do get lost out in the trails, I just use the back to start feature. And that gets me home if I get a bit stuck.
I'm always that type of rider that's always mapping out my routes and going somewhere new. Every ride I like to explore, and I like to have the climb pro to tell me what climbs are coming up, and then when I'm on a climb to see where the top is.
Like the light, we never go out without it because it's so good. You can see people from miles away when you're coming up behind them. And we did a nighttime ride the other day, and we all had those backlights on, and you could just see us. It was pitch black on the Carolette, but you could see us. It was real good.
I will always train with a light, even in the summer. With the radar, it will flash more and more the closer a car gets. I like it quite a lot for my TT bike, especially just because you have got your head down. I like that it just warns you there's a car, and obviously a lot of the time you are aware of the cars, but a lot of the time they can kind of creep up on you.
One of the biggest challenges for road cycling in particular, in terms of of growing the sport and identifying talent, is that it's very much Eurocentral. I definitely believe in the power of indoor cycling and the virtual world for talent ID, or to be able to access more riders. That's a lot to do with the fact that in the virtual world there really are no borders. I've really realized the potential of indoor training. It's amazing potential to help you to become that much stronger.
I enjoy it. I enjoy hurting myself. I'm that kind of rider, sort of short, hard efforts, and that's what got me into cycling, really. Through my interactions with women in the virtual world, that indoor cycling and virtual cycling is a great opportunity to grow female participation. And the reason why, I think, is that often cycling can be quite an intimidating sport for women. With indoor training, suddenly it takes all those boundaries away for the women, and they can, train from the safety of their home. They don't have to worry about changing punctures, being dropped, what they look like. They can just enjoy the pure joy of cycling, and then hopefully that builds their confidence and enables them to one day have the confidence to step out into the real world. But even if they never do, the fact of the matter is that at least they're enjoying living a healthy, active life.
Right now it's a really nice time to be a female cyclist. There are so many great cyclists out there that are fighting for women cycling.
Whether it's teams or sponsors, I never feel like hard done by. I always feel like they respect me just as much as a male contestant, and I feel like that shows in whether it's prize money or in the amount of races we can do.
I think it's a privilege to be a professional cyclist, and it's what I love to do, and I get to ride my bike, so I win.
The amount of resources that are available and at the fingertips of amateurs and pros now, it is actually a lot easier to progress in the sport, and it's due to all these advancements and progression in technology, and also the TV coverage I think is a big thing.
Hopefully in the followings around the world that see, hey, if these women are doing it, we can do it too, and get their friends out. And I think that's how we grow the sport beyond just those people that are racing, but in general, just seeing more women out on the trails, out on bikes, and especially young girls getting out and seeing what they can do on a bike.